Hi guys, this is episode 71 of Off the Sprue. In this one I'll be giving you an update on my Hobby Boss Jackal build. We'll be doing some scratch building and adding photo etch parts. Guys, you'll remember in the last video I modified the Hobby Boss Jackal, the front steering, and in this video I'll be taking it a step further. I'll be adding some very nice photo etch parts from Tetra Model Works, and I'll also be adding some Scratchbuilt detail just to fix some inaccuracies in the kit. First we jump to the rear of the vehicle, the tailgate, and in reference pictures you'll see there's quite a lot of detail on these machines, some hinges and locking mechanisms. Now on this build I'm very fortunate to have this very nice detail set from Tetra Model Works. This includes some photo etch parts, some vinyl cutouts, and guys, this is really highly recommended. If you can get your hands on this and you're building the Jackal, do consider this detail kit. First thing to fix are these giant gaping ejector pin holes on the rear of the tailgate. I'm not even going to try to fill these, so instead I opted just to cut a little piece of sheet styrene and cover them up. Next, to fit the photo etch parts, this existing detail on the styrene kit parts will need to be sanded away, and this is something that you do very carefully and progressively just remove that detail. You can see on your screen what I did. Next I glued the tailgate in place on the hull, and then also added that little piece of styrene card that I cut earlier just to cover up those ejector pin holes. Guys, now I'm adding a lot of photo etch, probably more than any other build to this Jackal, and that's up next. One of the first parts to add is this utility rail on the back of the tailgate, and this is something I instantly recognized because the missus and I have installed something similar on our little Suzuki Jimny off-roader. It's always interesting to see how good ideas migrate back and forth from the military to the civilian world. This is a tiny little photo etch part, beautifully detailed, and this is glued in place on top of the tailgate with some ultra glue from Ammo Mig. Definitely a very nice little detail part. Next are the hinges. These are included on the fret from Tetra Model Works, and guys, if you're unfamiliar with photo etch parts, do have a look at video 66 where I explain the process. The most difficult thing here was to bend those tiny little hinges in place. Here you can see there's the original part. There's the hinge that I rolled up the bottom sections there. Quite tricky to do, but definitely worth the trouble, as you'll see next. This is the bottom part of that hinge. I'm using the very tip of my tweezers, just rolling that over as required by the detail kit. There you can see there's the little part. And there they're being assembled, and to keep those two parts together I'm adding a little piece of wire. Now it's entirely possible to make this hinge workable. I didn't do it in this case, but if you really want to go that route, this detail kit certainly makes that possible. This will now fit onto the rear of the tailgate. You can see there where we filed the detail away. Tiny little drop of gel type super glue, and it's glued in place, certainly adding a lot of really beautiful detail. Keep on assembling the brass parts, and guys, there's the end result. I'm certainly thrilled with this result, and these little photo etch parts from Tetra Model Works certainly adds a lot of really nice detail. Now on to the driver's compartment, where we actually want to be. On page 11 it is indicated that there are 2 rows of ammo storage at the commander's feet, and actually this is incorrect. If you look at reference pictures, you'll see that there's a glove box where the commander's maps are stored, and this is something we'll have to correct. The first thing to do is to cut away the necessary parts. These are little box, the storage units, and there's a small one on top and a large one at the bottom. Now the large one, I assembled the photo etch parts from Hobby Boss. The small one at the top will have to be modified, and this is what it looks like with the dashboard in place. To do the modification, the lid, I used this small piece of styrene card, and took careful measurements of the top little box there, using my pencil just first to get the measurements down. Now guys, there's a few things that you'll have to pay attention to when you scratch build this. First, the front of that glove box, you'll see those angular corners as well as a little lip for the latch. Next, have a look at the latch itself, as well as those two holes where the locking mechanisms lock in place. And then finally, these D-rings at the bottom where you unlock the lid of the glove box. So let's scratch build this. The next step was to, with pencil, just copy down all those details on the little piece of styrene card that I just cut. And this will of course go on the front of the box from the kit. This has carefully been cut away with a hobby knife, and there you can see that's the front face of the glove box. Next, I need to add the latch and these little holes that you can see in the reference picture. So first, take my pencil, mark the approximate position where the holes need to be drilled, and once that is done, use a small hand drill and just drill those holes. Something like that. There we go. Next, the latch itself, the locking mechanism, and for this I'm going to use a little piece of 0.25mm wire. This is bent to the correct shape, as you can see there on your screen, and once assembled, this is what it looks like. Certainly getting there, and our glove box is slowly taking shape. Next up, the lid. You'll notice these D-rings with the locking mechanisms. For this, I'm going to use some wire again, and just to wrap this around the tip of a punch, just to get that rounded shape for the D-rings. And once I have the wire in place, just make sure that I mark the correct positions to correspond to the holes on the lid itself. And with a tiny drop of gel type super glue, the D-rings can now be glued in place. Contact is immediate, and there you can see there's the lid. For the reverse side, I'm going to use tiny pieces of styrene rod, and these are also glued in place with some gel type super glue, guys. And there's the lid with the D-rings at the bottom, the locking mechanism at the top, and this is now ready to go onto the glove box itself, onto the face. Again, some super glue, and then I very carefully just glue this in place in the open position, similar to what I'm seeing in my reference pictures. There's the result. I'm certainly happy with this. Very successful modification, and this can now go onto the front assembly of the driver's compartment. This fits above the ammo storage. A little drop of super glue glues this in place, and that's the dashboard section fitted as well. And we can move on to the next step. Now, in reference pictures, you'll notice these light tan vinyl covers over the steering column and a few of the other components, and this is something we'll be scratch building next. The first step is to cut the steering column parts from the sprue, the steering wheel itself, and just to go ahead and assemble this. So this is the steering in place as the kit requires this, and you'll see there's very little space for our vinyl cover, so we'll have to do some sanding in preparation for that. Now take a 600 grit sander, and I carefully sand the sides of that steering column thinner, taking lots of care to do this in a neat and tidy manner. I'll also need to sand away the slot on the dashboard itself where the steering column will fit. And once this is done, you can see we've added a lot of space there, and we can now add our canvas cover. To make this cover, I'm going to use my old friend, the aluminium kitchen foil, and you can look at episode 58, where I also used this to make a top. Certainly a very versatile scratch building material, kitchen foil. Just to get the correct measurements, I first use paper, a sheet of paper, and I cut a mock-up section of that canvas cover, making sure that it is shaped correctly. There we go, something like that. Let's just check the measurements. Yep, that looks correct. And once I'm happy with these measurements, I can just copy them to the kitchen foil. Using the worst pen I have on my desk for this. Please use something better when you make yours. It's a simple matter of just tracing the outlines of that little paper mock-up piece. And there we go. That is the foil version of that cover. And the next step is quite important, guys. If you work with aluminium kitchen foil, get yourself one of these rollers, and it will help you just to roll this little piece of metal completely flat, and it'll be easier to work with. Highly recommended tool for working with this. Next, adding these seams at the side, simply folding over the edges. And again, I'm going to use my roller just to roll those seams flat. There we go, something like this. And this is now ready to go onto the steering wheel, the steering column. It should be the same measurements as the paper mock-up that we used earlier. Let's just see if I wrap this around. Now, I wasn't entirely happy with the first attempt, and the great thing about kitchen foil is you don't have to throw this away. Simply just roll it flat again, similar as what I'm doing on your screen right now, and you're good to go again. So really one of the great and versatile things you can do with kitchen foil. There's actually a little bit of a undo, redo situation going on here. So once this is rolled flat again, I can make a second attempt and wrap this around the steering column. There we go, happy with this, and I can now start gluing this in place. Now for this I'm using Ultra Glue from Ammo Mig, and of course this stuff dries completely clear, which makes it an excellent adhesive for this application. Applying a little bit of this with a toothpick, taking care not to get glue over everything, because that will influence our paint and finishing later. So again, just closing that foil around the steering column. Guys, and there we go. The steering column has been wrapped in the vinyl cover, and I thought to just to paint this just to give you guys an idea of what the final result will look like, because at this stage it doesn't look like much. There's some kitchen foil visible, as well as the raw styrene parts. So let me show you how I painted this. As always, start with a good primer. In this case I used Mr. Hobby Primer, and I also proceeded to add some pre-shading to this part. This is something you've seen me done before. There we go, pre-shading added to both the steering wheel as well as the steering column. The color that I used for the vinyl cover is German Camouflage Beige, and this of course is from the Vallejo model color range. It needs some thinning before going into your airbrush. This is very carefully sprayed onto the steering column itself, gradually adding the color so as not to kill the pre-shading. Once this is done, I use some Deck Tan, also from Vallejo model color, and this is now dry brushed onto that tin foil, and you'll see all the beautiful detail coming out there with the dry brushing. This certainly gives it that canvas cover look that we're after. A final detail to add is this filter from MIG Productions for Desert Tan, and this is now applied to all the recessed detail, much like a wash. So there we go, guys. That is the Scratchbuilt vinyl cover for the Jackal steering column, and this, along with the Scratchbuilt Glovebox, adds a great deal of detail to the driver's compartment. Of course, we're not done with this yet. In an upcoming video, I'll show you some additional detailing, as well as the instrumentation that I added, and that is something to look forward to in the next video. That's it for video 71 then, guys. Thank you for joining me. As always, join me on Instagram. I do frequent updates on all my builds there, and you're guaranteed not to miss a single thing. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.